I'd like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. Roll call, please.
President Mary Kodowski.
Here.
Gary Paul. Here. Chris Adkinson.
Here.
Jay Krieger.
Here.
Corey Campbell.
Here.
Mike Skiffington and James Allen are excused.
Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Number 5, action on the minutes of the May 5th, 2026 Plan Commission meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda. Must state your name and address. You're limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Is there anybody who would like to comment on anything not on tonight's agenda? Any comments on items not on tonight's agenda? Moving on. Number 7, items for discussion and possible action. 7A, consider, discuss, act on a 2-lot certified survey map CSM request for parcel VA-L360-6 at 1280 West Main Avenue. Aaron.
All right, thank you. I'll share my screen and bring up the certified survey map. Okay, there we go. This may look familiar to you. Last month, Plan Commission did recommend approving the rezoning of what's identified as Lot 1 on this property from R1 one-family residence to B1 local business. That was ultimately approved by the village board at last month's village board meeting. The certified survey map basically replicates that rezoning request by splitting off Lot 1 for the B1 local business use, and then Lot 2 will remain for the residential use to the north. Both lots do meet the requirements for the R1 and B1 zoning districts respectively. In terms of the recommended conditions of approval for the 2-lot CSM include depicting the shoreland zone district for the northwestern part of Lot 2. Add the following note: a shoreland permit from the Village of Ashwaubenon Zoning Administrator's Office is required for Lot 2 prior to construction, fill, or grading activity within 300 feet of the ordinary high water mark of a stream or to the landward side of a floodplain, whichever is greater. Add the following note: subject property lies within Airport District C. The Green Bay Austin Straubel International Airport Director shall be contacted for review and approval prior to any land development and land disturbing activities within the airport zoning districts. Number 4, revising the Village of Ashwaubenon certificate from Wendy Helgeson, Village Clerk, to Aaron M. Schutte, Community Development Director. And number 5, revisions, if any, and approval by the Brown County Planning Commission. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So nothing really changed, Aaron, from what we approved, right?
Correct. No, everything.
It's just that, okay. I'll make the motion to approve the 2-lot certified survey map for parcel VA-L360-6 at 1280 West Main Avenue with staff conditions.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the certified survey map at 1280 West Main Avenue with staff conditions, parcel VA-L360-6. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. 7B, consider, discuss, act on a site plan review request for exterior improvements to 780 Morris Avenue, parcel VA-66-7-E-1. Aaron.
All right, I will share my screen again and bring up an image of the proposed improvements. There we go. So the request is for, as noted, exterior improvements to 780 Morris. It is the former Koken small engine services. As noted on the image, what you see here is a proposed exterior cladding, or recladding, as well as new roof, and new asphalt for the former gravel lot. There's board and batten siding, 3-foot masonry or limestone wainscot as indicated. New downward directed lighting will be added around the building. And as mentioned, fully concealed fastener, board and batten siding will replace the existing metal panels. As the subject property is within the SE Sports Entertainment Zoning District, Plan Commission and Village Board, action is also required to approve the site plan. Site Plan Review Committee did recommend approval at their meeting earlier today with staff conditions. And I'll read through those staff conditions for your information. Use of fully concealed fasteners for exterior wall panels. All new metal wall panels are to include a minimum of 3-foot masonry wainscot. Conventional curb, pan, or mountable curbing is required for new paved areas where not directly abutting neighboring parking or drive areas. The catch-all meet all applicable requirements of the Ashwaubenon Site Plan Review and all other applicable village ordinances. And from public safety, all buildings are required to have Knox key box installed 5 feet from grade and within 5 feet of the main entrance on the address side of the building. No comments received from engineering, stormwater, forestry, or bike and ped committee. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, Dave Holzum, representing the applicant, is in the audience as well.
As Aaron stated, this came in front of the site plan committee this afternoon. I was hoping to tear the building down when it was up for sale, but our party here is renovating it. I think it's a great improvement to what it was. I have no problems with what they're doing. It's a great vision of where we're going with this sports entertainment district. Who knows what it'll be in another 20 years. So no other comments or concerns. I'll move to recommend approval of the site plan. Exterior improvement at 780 Morse Avenue, Parson, VA 66-7-E-1 with staff conditions.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend approval of the site plan for exterior improvements at 780 Morris Avenue, parcel VA-66-7-E-1 with staff conditions. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
My only comment is it's nice to see something done with that building.
Yeah, I agree.
Big improvement.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, 7C.
Thank you.
7C, consider, discuss, act on a revised Second Amendment to the Planned Unit Development PUD overlay zoning for West Point Center at 460 Marina Lane, parcels VA-132-16, VA-132-13, and VA-132-15. Aaron.
All right, I will share my screen again. Just bring up the revised site plan. Okay. So for those of you who maybe were not at the village board meeting, village board did recommend the proposal be basically sent back to staff and brought back through site plan review, plan commission, and village board based upon the discussion that happened at village board itself. The applicant has resubmitted a revised PUD amendment as indicated up on the screen. I'll just run through that quickly. This is the CBRF memory care, which is currently under construction. These are now, this was to be, it's called residential care apartment complex, senior apartments. So again, up to 28 hours of service. The RCAC component of the apartments has been removed. So now these are just ambulatory market rate senior apartments. And then where was the CBRF assisted living in this L-shaped area right now, that is going to be green space for the foreseeable future, basically to be seen what may happen with that in the future. Anything that would happen with that location would have to come back through the approval process with an amended PUD, in case you're curious about that. The senior apartments exterior is the same as what was discussed previously. It does meet the site plan review and design standards for the village. Site plan review committee did recommend approval of the site plan component of the project. with the condition that the PUD amendment is ultimately approved by Village Board. I should mention, additionally, just again demonstrating that this is a more active area, the pickleball court was added to northern part here of the green space area. In terms of the recommended conditions of approval, I'll read through those. All parking areas, landscape islands, and drive areas are to have curbing, either conventional, curb, pan, or rolled. Screen any rooftop or ground-mounted mechanical units visible from the property boundaries or South Broadway or Marina Lane rights-of-way. Work with a qualified environmental consultant to remain in compliance with the DNR voluntary party liability exemption for closed case number 06-05-343470 throughout utility taps, construction, and restoration. Use full cutoff and shielded lighting to prevent glare into the hotel windows to the east. Siding materials are to be engineered wood or cement board. Lap siding is limited to no more than 25% of the surface area of any one elevation. Meet all applicable requirements of the Ashwaubenon site plan review and all other applicable village ordinances. From engineering, revise the grading plan along the north property line to include a swale so runoff stays on site and is treated by the existing storm pond. Indicate where the sanitary sewer holding tank / grease trap is located on the utility plan per building if required. Continuing on, complete maintenance on the stormwater pond, including trash, sediment, vegetation removal, etc. Update the stormwater management plan with new utility layout. As previously noted, revise the grading plan along the north property line to include the swale so runoff stays on site and is treated by the existing storm pond. From public safety, police, and fire, the fire sprinkler system shall be equipped with a stores type fire department connection, or FDC, located on the front address side of the building. All new buildings are required to have Knox key box installed 5 feet from the grade and within 5 feet of the front main entrance on the address side of each building. And last, private fire hydrants shall not be located within 40 feet of any building. Fire hydrants shall be no more than 10 feet and no less than 5 feet from the curb or edge of the fire apparatus access road or fire lane. Fire hydrants located in parking lot island shall be a minimum of 3 and 3.5 feet from the center of the hydrant to the curb. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we do have representatives of the development team in the audience as well.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for anybody? I do want to say that I do like the fact that you added the pickleball courts to add some mobility and generate some interest, so activity. So that was nice.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Okay, we have a
If you want
motion
to say, yeah.
to approve. Do we have a second before we can further?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any other further comments?
I just want to make a comment. I think the party here did a nice job to help us get our goal to where we accept their proposal and what they're doing.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, we have a motion to recommend approval for the revised Second Amendment to the Planned Unit Development PUD overlay zoning for West Point Center, 460 Marina Lane, parcels VA-132-16, VA-132-13, and VA-132-15 with staff conditions. Now that it was the first and second with staff conditions?
Yes, correct.
Yep, okay. Everybody understand? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, 7D, consider, discuss, act on a proposed ordinance 06-01-26, creating Chapter 17, Planning and Zoning, Article 10, Hyperscale Data Center Moratorium. So before I turn this over to you, Joel, I just would like to make the comment that I have received comments from some of the residents that they are against data centers. And what I want people to understand is that this is a fully transparent move that we are talking about this ordinance, because we are in the middle of rewriting our zoning code, and we don't want people to think that we are rewriting it to allow or disallow data centers. We're putting a moratorium on data centers so that we have time to get our code ready, to get our code done, which affects 99% of the people 99% of the day. So that is why we are proposing this, because there is so much information right now floating out there about data centers. Like I said before in staff, I mean, I'm going, on Thursday all day down to a seminar to talk about data centers. So there's a lot of information out there that we need to gather, and that's why we have proposed this moratorium at this time. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'll elaborate on that. Thank you, Madam President. So just following the Plan Commission meeting that we had back in April, we talked about and provided an update on where we were at with the zoning code rewrite. And there was a conversation at that meeting, in fact, about data centers. I think Corey Campbell had brought that up as far as that conversation and how we can best address that issue. Following that meeting in April, discussions surrounding data centers throughout our region obviously picked up. There's been a lot of conversation in the community just to the south of us, and we saw some of the activity and actions that are happening in some of these other surrounding communities as it relates to data centers, and recognized that we were only a few weeks, maybe a couple months away from presenting to the Plan Commission and the Village Code a complete rewrite of our zoning code. And recognizing that there is substantial interest and response surrounding data centers, we wanted to ensure that when we presented the zoning code for the first time, that we were not clouding the conversation of all of the other zoning code components with that of just data centers. So we talked internally, we thought, what would be the best way of doing that while maintaining transparency, maintaining accountability to our constituents in the community, and then also affording opportunity for reasonable and sound engagement as it relates to the data center conversation, but yet also still have that same transparent, reasonable, engaging conversation as it relates to the rest of the zoning code. There are so many aspects to zoning that affect everyone's day-to-day life that we wanted to make sure that we didn't pack a room full of people that were only concerned about data centers when we really wanted to talk about accessory structures and setbacks and minimum lot sizes and all of those other things that affect the overall quality of life of the community. And so that was where the idea was born, is just seeing what was happening in our surrounding communities and the debate that was occurring. It would be best to set it aside, create a moratorium, give us some time to address that individual issue separately, but yet still allowing us that opportunity to have that conversation about the remainder of the zoning code. So that was the idea behind it, so that we didn't create that situation where we were going to pack our room full of people that were upset about data centers just showing up as text within the zoning code, without having an opportunity to really address that issue or other issues within the particular zoning code. So in your packet is a proposed ordinance. That particular ordinance addresses further definition as it relates to data centers. So before I get into the proposed ordinance, I do want to just mention that data processing sites and locations are currently permitted uses within our zoning code. We do currently have data processing sites in Ashwaubenon that support a variety of businesses, from banking to healthcare to logistics. Many of these sites are well under 100,000 square feet in size and certainly only consume a very small portion of electricity in comparison to what we're seeing in some of these other hyperscale data centers that most people have concerns with. And so when we crafted this language, we took into account basically the existing uses that currently are taking place in our community, and crafted it so that we weren't creating a non-conforming issue with existing uses with that of which people are most concerned with. And so I just made note that in our staff report that we do have small and medium enterprise data centers. Again, they're typically incorporated into existing industrial uses. Sometimes they're standalone buildings, but oftentimes they're incorporated into existing corporate or industrial uses. They're all under 100,000 square feet, and they all certainly use less than 20 megawatts of power. From our understanding and just hearing some of the conversations that are happening throughout not only our region, but the state and throughout the country, there are individuals that are concerned about, are more concerned about hyperscale data centers. Not trying to diminish people's concerns about data centers in general, but in large part, they're likely more concerned about the hyperscale size of these data centers and some of the impacts that may affect the health, safety, and welfare of the communities in which they are proposing to locate. And those concerns that we were able to identify were the high electrical demand in coordination with utility infrastructure. So some of these data centers are consuming large volumes of electrical capacity that could impact the overall quality of electrical distribution, as well as the installation of additional transmission lines that, again, have concerns about impacts into the overall neighborhood. There are concerns about water use and water quality, as well as air quality. There are concerns about fire protection and emergency response considerations. Traffic not necessarily in direct relation to the operation of a completed data center, but the construction of the data center. Many of us have seen or have driven past or have heard reports about the construction of activity happening in Port Washington, and there's impacts to the surrounding community and neighborhood as it relates to the development of that site. Noise, visual impacts, compatibility with surrounding land uses, those are all concerns. And again, just that broader impact on public infrastructure and services, both during the construction and operation. These are all elements and components that can be, to some degree, effectively addressed with proper zoning. And so setting this aside allows us to pick apart those things and identify what elements we have authority to regulate and what elements we want to ensure are being met to maintain the quality of life that is important to our residents and constituents in the community. As part of the draft ordinance, you'll recognize that we take what we currently define as data processing or storage centers and provide further definition as to what a data center is. We also further define from that definition of data center what would constitute a hyperscale data center. A hyperscale data center is any combination of floor area exceeding 100,000 square feet or a planned installed electrical capacity of 20 megawatts or greater. And then again, essentially it creates the moratorium that would basically prohibit us from taking applications for such a use for a 12-month period. I want to make it very clear as part of the record that this moratorium is not a development moratorium as defined in Wisconsin State Statutes 66-1002 sub 1 sub B. If you're familiar with that statute, it's in reference to a development moratorium that a plan commission and village board or city council can create that would prohibit rezoning requests and further land divisions. However, there are other stringent standards that have to be met in order to do that. So an individual could come to the community, even with this moratorium in place, and petition to rezone a property to what could conceivably be an allowable designated zoning district to permit it, but they would not be able to apply for, let's say, a site plan application or other permitted activity. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to prohibit rezoning of land or the subdivision of land for the construction of a data center, but you would be able to prohibit the application of a building permit, a site plan application, or something to that effect, because this is not a development moratorium. It is strictly a moratorium on the development of a specific use, okay? And again, this gives us that 12-month window to effectively address and to take up this issue related to data centers. It does not, again, as President Kardasky had mentioned, it does not necessarily eliminate future considerations for a data center, but it does not necessarily mean that we will allow future consideration for a data center. It just simply gives us that space and time to effectively address it, to engage, and to hear from our constituents simply without any threat of a hyperscale data center from being proposed in Ashwaubenon. With that, and I'll kind of conclude that there has been some conversation about available land area in Ashwaubenon. Again, what we're seeing generally across the state are these hyperscale data centers that are consuming hundreds of acres of land, could be over 1 million square feet of developed floor space. That's not to say that we certainly don't have area of the village that would accommodate that level of hyperscale, but there are areas in the village, particularly in the southwest, that could be developed into how we define a hyperscale data center of over 100,000 square feet or a couple hundred acres of land. Or there could be the reuse or redevelopment of it. So it is pertinent to address that in Ashwaubenon, despite the fact that we don't have 1,500 acres of open green space that could eventually be developed to something similar to what you're seeing in Port Washington, Beaver Dam, or Mount Pleasant. So we do have it. We do have provisions within our code to allow the smaller enterprise sites, but this would essentially create that time and space to draft regulations that would be more applicable to those hyperscale or large data center projects that most people are concerned with. And I will answer any questions that you may have.
Does anybody have any questions? This has been a well-thought-out ordinance, I think, to calm the concerns of some of the residents, because nobody wants to see, in Ashwaubenon, what they go down I-43 and they have the several hundred acre data center, and that's the concern. So this should calm everybody down, and we can
I
get our
think
zoning
this is
code.
good to give us the 12 months in between your two, especially to give Aaron a chance to kind of muscle this out a little bit and, give the staff the chance to identify what does this really mean? And what does this really mean to Ashwaubenon and its residents? So I think it's a great step to do this. It also helps you with the writing of the ordinances, so we don't have to deal with that, which I think is a great move. So I'll make the motion to recommend the village board adopt the proposed ordinance establishing a hyperscale data center moratorium.
I'll second.
Here we have a motion and a second to recommend village board adoption of the proposed ordinance establishing a hyperscale data center moratorium. Are there any other questions, concerns, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 8, items for next agenda. Do we have a next agenda? Okay,
Not yet.
not yet. Okay, so number 9, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. We are done.